Let's see how this thing works here. All right. I guess I better turn off the music or else this video will get deleted. All right. I got nothing better. Oh. You guys are interrupting my Pantera. No. All right, so I want to do a quick video. I'm not going to regurgitate about constitutional carry. I've got about a 20-minute drive home, 25-minute drive home. And just for those of you that are wondering, no, I am not driving a European car. The picture is reversed because I've got the rear-facing camera. There you go, I turned it up for you. So anyway, go to the Open Carry Texas Facebook page. I put up a video, it's about a 20-minute video about constitutional carry and why people should support it. But there are people out there that probably don't know what that is. There are people out there that probably don't support it. I'd like to do one of two things. Either convince me why I should not support it, or let me convince you why you should. Or if you got any other questions about gun type issues or whatever, let's talk about them. So I think most of the people that follow this channel probably support it. I got a few libtard trolls out there. So, you know, even the libtards, hey, if you got, you know, something out there, you want to, you know, expose your idiocy and stupidity to everybody and oppose gun rights, I mean, I'll address that as well. And I'll even treat you individually respectfully. I mean, I won't make fun of you individually. I do make fun of libtards as a group. So I do discriminate against libtards. But if you have the balls as a libtard to leave a comment and make a statement on this channel, then I will treat you respectfully, because that tells me that you've got some cojones, you've got some intestinal fortitude, and you're willing to you know, take a stand for what you believe in. So I'll just tear apart your argument, but I won't tear you apart. So that's what this video is about. I want you to either convince me that constitutional carry is a bad idea, or I want to convince you that it's a good idea. And I'm not gonna, I'll just go into, I'm not even gonna bring up the Second Amendment argument, okay? Because on its face, if it's not constitutional carry, what is it? It's unconstitutional carry, which means if you have to have a license, there's nothing constitutional about that. So the answer that I'm gonna give you is not gonna be, oh, Second Amendment. I'm not gonna just throw out the rhetorical, all right? I'm gonna give some very reasoned, logical, and fact-based reasons why our current law is not only unconstitutional, but why it's wrong. It's just wrong-headed. And why people who think that the license is bad are likewise wrong-headed. So, there you go. So in the comments there, if you've got, and I guess I'll use this opportunity to talk about just about anything. Some of you are probably wondering about Olmos Park, so I'll address that here real quick. Our attorneys, about a week and a half ago, we did file what we called a demand letter with the city of Olmos Park. I'm not at liberty to give out the details of that yet, but here's our thinking on that. Let's see, it's a great idea. Shoot, what'd I do? Constitutional carry is a great idea in those states where constitutional is legal, crime is lower than others. Absolutely. Convince you otherwise? Sorry, I'm on the wrong stream. But anyway, so the thought process with Olmos Park is, and this is what Jim and I told our attorneys, is we want to do this right I'm not texting while driving. I'm talking while driving. I'm just swiping to see the comments, and I don't do that if I can't. So anyway, we told our attorney that we want to do it right, not fast. So I know some people are wondering, like, what's taking so long? We're getting all our ducks in a row. We have a solid case, but we don't want to screw it up. We want to make sure that there is absolutely no doubt that Olmos Park is full of corrupt thugs who have no idea how to enforce the law, who violate the law, who disrespect and trample the Constitution, and who, quite frankly, are wastes of carbon and oxygen. And so we want to make sure that that point is very clear. And I'll tell you, I don't say this about every police department, but with one exception, and I'm not even going to say who that exception is, although I even kind of question this, every single officer in Olmos Park is a statist thug. Why? Even if they weren't involved? Because why are you still working for this department? First of all. So anyway, that was our that's why you're a statist thug, whether you affected me personally or not. If you work for that department, and don't give me the stuff about, oh, I got a family to feed. Round Rock Police Department is hiring right now. Temple Police Department is hiring right now. Houston Police Department is hiring right now. There are police departments that are hiring right now that aren't thugs like Olmos Park. Anyway, I won't go too far, but we are taking it easy. And so the thought process is, we are trying to get Olmos Park to do the right thing and come to the table and recognize that they screwed up, and make amends for screwing up before we waste taxpayer money going to court. Now, I have no problems going to court, and we're not making it so easy that these guys get away with things. Justin, I'll talk about that in a second. We're not making it so easy that the settlement is going to be something that doesn't matter. To stay out of court, there are some very big benchmarks, and again, I can't get specific about exactly what those are, but let's just say, we're not looking for an apology. Let's just say that there have to be some real consequences, and we've outlined those consequences with Olmos Park if they want to stay out of court. They know they're wrong. Everyone knows they're wrong. Not only did they engage in civil rights violations, but they engaged in felonious criminal conduct. And that's going to come out if we go to court. Now, it's going to come out anyway because, well, again, I can't get into the details. Just know that with Olmos Park, that's what we've done. All right. So Justin said Temple PD not thugs. I'll tell you this. Temple PD used to be thugs. We've got a new chief here in Temple, Chief Mitchell, that has been cleaning house. A few officers that were problem children that should have never worn that uniform. They've been gotten rid of. Unfortunately, most of them have just either quit or been allowed to retire. That kind of bogus crap. But I don't care. They're not wearing the uniform anymore. And the Temple PD officers that are left, for the most part, with two exceptions that I know of for sure, and that's Sergeant Wilkie and Sergeant Minix. Except for those two, I think Temple PD is a much better police department now than it was 5 years ago. A lot of good guys and a good chief. As a matter of fact, I thought we were going to lose him here recently. All right, so, all right, constitutional carry, HB 360 or 357. I like that number, 357. It's not 1911. I did like 1911. That was my favorite number because I'm a 1911 guy, and I don't own a 357 firearm. But you know what? It's a cool number. It's got reasoning. So HB 357 is the constitutional carry bill here in Texas. Jonathan Stickland has filed that. We have got to get it passed this year, and we have a pretty decent chance. The problem is there are a bunch of butters out there and a bunch of fake gun rights people. Look, I'm going to say this flat out. If you think you support gun rights, if you think you're a pro Second Amendment person and you do not support constitutional carry, you're not pro Second Amendment and you're not pro guns, period. Period. That's it. If you don't believe in shall not be infringed, then you're not a pro-gun rights person. You might be a pro-gun person, but you're not a pro-gun rights person. So, what's the difference between constitutional carry and open carry? See, these are the kinds of questions I want to talk to people about. What open carry just means that you can carry the firearm where it's seen. And obviously concealed carry means you can't see the firearm. Constitutional carry means that you can carry that firearm, open or concealed, doesn't matter, without a license. In other words, your license is your life. The fact that you live, the fact that you breathe, is your license to defend your life and carry a firearm. So if you are able to, if you can legally own, possess, and carry a firearm, then you should be able to carry that firearm without a license. That's the definition of constitutional carry. It doesn't mean anyone, anytime, anywhere can carry, although that should be the law. Our version of what constitutional carry means is that if you can legally own the gun and legally possess the gun, in other words, you're not a prohibited person, and that's a whole nother discussion. As long as you're not a prohibited person, then you can carry that firearm without a license. And the problem that we have right now is that we have constitutional carry, in a sense. The only people that it applies to right now are criminals. Because criminals and felons don't go and get licenses when they carry their guns to rob banks and rob people and murder. So the thugs and the criminals and the gangbangers, they already have constitutional carry. I think the rest of us need constitutional carry. All right, without all the states, how do you carry in other states? So we are not trying to get rid of the license. Constitutional carry doesn't mean that the license goes away. It just becomes voluntary. If you want to get a license, you can get a license, but you don't have to within the state of Texas. Or in the states that allow you to carry without a license. So there are 36 states right now that allow you to open carry without a license. There's 36. There are, of that 36, there are 15 that are constitutional carry states, which means you can carry openly or concealed without a license. So if you get constitutional carry in Texas, you can still constitutionally carry in 15 states, and you can constitutionally open carry in 36 states. But unfortunately, the other states, the 14 that require a license, or it'll be 13 if we change our laws, the other 13 states, you'll unfortunately have to have a license that's got reciprocity. Don't expect to be able to carry in New York, Maryland, or California, or Hawaii anytime soon. So that's the unfortunate part about it. Until all 50 states get back to the Constitution, the license, if you want to go to those places, I just don't go to those states. The license will have to be out there, and I don't mind having a license as long as it's not mandatory. And what history has shown, when states have gone to constitutional carry, although Missouri has been the exception to this rule, because we used to argue that when a state goes to constitutional carry, more people actually get licenses. Missouri has bucked that trend, and since constitutional carry has passed, fewer people have gotten licenses. Good for them. All right, law enforcement reaction to constitutional carry, like demanding ID to run for warrants. That is an issue. In HB 357, I believe, now there's two different bills out there, or at least there's one bill and then one that we're looking to get filed. I believe that HB 357 does contain a provision that law enforcement cannot simply stop people to determine their status just because they're carrying. Now, the courts have already decided this. In a state where it's legal to carry, which would be Texas, the default cannot be a felon in possession of a firearm, which would justify a stop and ID. So there's already court precedent about that, but 357, HB 357 by Stickland, actually has that specific wording in there because some Texas cops don't get it. They have a power trip, and they think that their authority trumps your rights, and they will try to demand your identification But HB 357 specifically tells law enforcement, unless you have probable cause that a crime is being committed, then you cannot stop an ID just to determine whether or not that person is a prohibited person. So if someone's robbing a bank or you know, carrying a firearm in a manner calculated to cause alarm, then yes. So now PNP, I would say in Texas, as it relates to firearms, at least in my experience and from what I'm hearing from all of our members across the state, for the most part, cops don't screw with open carriers. Unfortunately, there are cops out there, and some of them tend to congregate in certain towns where there seem to be a higher percentage of them. But for the most part, law enforcement don't stop an ID gun owners just because they're carrying. And then what I would say is, for those that do, what you need to do is stand up to yourself and refuse. Here's the thing: if you stand up and you refuse to identify when you're not required to legally identify, just because you're open carrying, and you get arrested, you will be, that Open Carry Texas has got your back. All right, we got your back. If there has to be a court case, although there's already Brown v. Texas and Black v. US, or US v. Black, so the case law is already there. But just know that there are groups out there and people out there that have your back. So stand up for yourself. If a cop stops you and says, hey, you're open carrying, we had a call, someone was afraid, need to see some ID, make sure you can legally carry this gun, you tell them to pound sand. That's what you tell them. You can use those words: hey, pound sand, bite me, walk off, whatever. Or you can say, look, I'm gonna, you know, with all due respect, I'm gonna invoke my rights unless you have probable cause. Not gonna do anything. Does Texas have campus carry? Yes, in public universities, in 2- and 4-year universities. So if it's a public university, the university cannot prevent you from carrying firearms. Now, the law does allow for universities to create safe spaces for triggered morons, but those are very narrowly defined. So for example, if you're in a chemical lab or a place where there's volatile chemicals, or if there's a you know, if they say not in the gym because there's a risk of the gun falling out of its holster while you're playing basketball or something, sports complexes, they're allowed to create those sort of exemptions for where you can carry, but they have to post signs. So we do have campus carry. We've had it about, well, 2015, so about 3 years now. I think it went into effect in 2016, because that's when I started my bachelor's at Texas A&M, and we were able to carry. So I think 2016, August 1st is when it went into effect. So all right, let's see here what we got. You know, here's the thing. Here's the problem. I believe that under the federal and the state constitution, one of the problems that we have with case law is that there's not a lot of case law on bearing arms. A lot of the case law that's out there has to do with keeping arms. And so people argue about whether or not I can own a firearm or have a firearm, but a lot of people don't. There aren't a lot of cases out there for bearing arms. So the law doesn't just say I can have guns; it says I can carry them. And the law being the Constitution. So I would argue, if you've got the money and you're able to, and it's perfectly legal to carry without a license right now. And I mean, this is just my opinion. I'm not giving legal advice here. And I'm telling you right now, if you carry without a license and you get caught, you're going to get charged. And that's going to be on you to fight. So if you've got the resources, if I were a millionaire, as a matter of fact, if Almost Park makes me a millionaire, guess what? CJ's not getting a license. I'm carrying without a license, because then I don't care if I get arrested. I'll fight it in court. I'll use Almost Park's money to fight the constitutionality of the Texas license to carry. That's what I'll do, because I'll have the money then. That's the gospel according to CJ, just so you know. I'm not giving you legal advice. All right, what we got? Any more questions or comments about gun rights and gun laws and junk like that? It's an unfortunate product of our system that in order to get the government to follow the Constitution, to do what the government's supposed to do in the first place, you have to first be assaulted, then you have to be kidnapped, then you have to be imprisoned and held hostage, and then you have to be extorted, where they steal your money so that you're not held hostage anymore. And then you have to go through the court system that protects itself and government. We don't have a third-party independent judicial system anymore. And so in order to get the government to obey its own laws, i.e. the Constitution, you have to go through this lengthy and extensive and expensive process. And then you've got to get a state agent known as an attorney. I just saw one. What about gun laws on school? I can't see. I'm not going to try and squint because I'm driving. I need you to flush that out a little bit better. What are you talking about? Shout out for lawful school carry. Absolutely. I carried every day when I was in college. Every day. I may or may not have carried even when the law didn't allow me to. I'm not saying I did. I may or may not have been protected no matter what while I was in college. Yeah, exactly. Asking a group of criminals, i.e. politicians, to follow the Constitution. Go figure. Asking the very people who break the law every day to follow the law. And not just the written law, but common law. Get your laws off my body. If I'm not affecting anyone, you know, I believe you have the right to do anything you want. Anything you want in life, to the point and extent that you affect the rights of someone else to exercise those same rights. So I have a right to put whatever I want into my body. It's my body. Up until the point where putting that stuff into my body and getting behind the wheel and crashing into someone, that's where I don't have that right any longer, because now I've affected their right to life, their right to happiness, their right to liberty, because especially if I put them in a hospital. So that's the extent of rights. And the entire purpose of government, the sole purpose of government, is to protect liberty, not to regulate every aspect of my life or your life. The sole purpose of government, is to protect liberty and rights. Everything else the government does is extrajudicious for what they should be doing. But yet, because we have a weak public and we've got a bunch of brainwashed ninnies who think the government have to take care of everything that they do, and, you know, oh, I don't like my neighbor's music, so I'm going to call the cops. I want the government to tell my neighbors to turn their music down. So now you've got the police state involved in little petty squabbles. So the government, you know, you got these people who are cowards. You got these people who want everyone else to do everything for them. They're the ones creating the problem with government. And that's why we've got all these laws. All right, let's see here. Does Texas have a pro-Second Amendment governor? David, let me put it this way. Yes, we have a pro-Second Amendment governor. Do we have an aggressive pro-Second Amendment governor? No. We have a governor that says he will sign constitutional carry. He said that last session. Oh, if it comes before my desk, I'll sign it. So we have a pro-Second Amendment governor. We don't have an aggressive pro-Second Amendment governor. We don't have an activist pro-Second Amendment governor. He did zero to lift a finger for constitutional carry last session. He didn't make one speech about it. He didn't do one press conference about it. He never pushed it, despite it being the #1 priority. So, I have no doubt, sorry, my ears keep popping. I'm getting over a cold or something. I have no doubt that Governor Abbott would sign a constitutional carry bill when it gets to his desk. But the problem I have is that he refuses to fight for it and actually push it. If he would put some weight behind it, we'd get it, I think. All right, K through 12. Sorry, I can't hear myself. You're right. He's all talk. Absolutely. Keep my desk. I'll sign it. That's a cop-out. That's what that is. That's a cop-out, because then all you have to say is, hey, I would have signed it. It just never came to my desk, so I couldn't sign it. It's not my fault. And then you pass the buck. But a governor has the bully pulpit, and he's not using it. So he's all talk. Is he better than Lupe Valdez and any Democrat? Absolutely. K through 12. That's a very simple question for me. I believe in getting rid of gun-free zones anywhere and everywhere. Nobody can convince me, and I defy and challenge you to convince me why there should be a place that prevents firearms. So, ready? Go. Convince me of one place where it's a good idea that there should be no guns. Now, I can think of one place. I can think of one place. Let's see if anybody in the comments there knows where I'm thinking, where the one place that CJ agrees that guns should be banned. And other than that, so there's my thoughts on K through 12. I think K through 12 encompasses that comment. So I believe I should be able to carry when I go to pick up my kids from school. I believe I should be able to carry when no, not heaven, not prison. There you go, prison. Prison is the only place where the people in prison should be prevented from carrying. Amen. You know what? I should, who was that? Shannon Murphy. I'll tell you what, Shannon, send me an email, cj@opencarrytexas.org, and I'm going to send you a t-shirt. You passed the test today, Shannon. Prison is the only place where guns should be banned. All right. That answered that question. cj@opencarrytexas.org. Just send me an email, give me your shirt size, and I'm going to send you a t-shirt. Oh, and send me your address, too. Email me your address. I'll send you an Open Carry Texas shirt. Yeah. All right, what else we got? Yeah, hey, what's up, PNP News? Hey, you know what? We are talking about constitutional carry, but I want to talk about something. I am not just a gun rights guy. I believe in rights, and I believe in, hey, you know what? Here's a perfect example of my philosophy on why these butters who don't support constitutional carry should still get behind constitutional carry. You don't have to support it to support the right. But you know, these people that are so-called pro-gun, but they oppose constitutional carry, you're not pro-gun right. And this might surprise some people, but I know a lot of people in the First Amendment, you know, the photography is not a crime crowd, and I support them 100%. But here's an example of where gun rights people should be, because I don't agree with going in and, you know, sticking cameras in government officials' faces, and I know you don't actually do that. You know, it's a figure of speech. To me, it suits. I don't really see a necessary. I see the purpose, but it's just not something I would do. It's not something that, you know, you're going to see me going out with a camera and filming people behind glass at the city hall or whatever. But guess what? You'll also never see me criticizing those people who do it, because they have the right to do it. And I think they have every right to do it, and they should be allowed to do it, and I'm glad they do it. It's not something I would ever do. It's not something that I think, you know, for my purposes, I might think that there's better ways of doing that kind of thing. But what I think about that doesn't matter. And those guys have my undying support. Those of you that are going out there and you're recording your public officials and you're making a point, there's a good point to what they're doing, because our government has tried to scare us in the name of terrorism, and in this day and age, that, oh, a camera is somehow more deadly than a firearm. And so what is just like what we're doing on the gun side, is we're showing that just because you see a gun doesn't mean that someone's going to shoot you. these guys are saying just because you see a camera, it doesn't mean I'm planning an attack. You're not that important, people. So that's the difference between actually truly supporting the Constitution and truly supporting liberty, is when you support something that you don't necessarily agree with, right? And so that's kind of how I fit in with those guys. So I support them 100%. PNP News, News Now Houston, all those guys. I love James Freeman. I watch your videos. I like them. Is it something I would do? No, I mean, I might go out with them every now and then, but I won't have a camera and, you know, walking into buildings. I don't know. It's just not my thing. But you guys have the right to do that, and I support your right to do that. Not only will I not do it, I support your right to do it. Don't ask me to come with you, because that's just, again, that's not something I do. Oh, I'll come with you. I'll bring my guns. You guys can film. I'll bring my guns. We'll have fun. So for those of you butter people who are like, oh, the constitutional carry's stupid. I don't see why anybody, open carry's stupid. That's just dumb. I don't support that. You should just conceal carry. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can feel that way, but you should support those that do it. And stop, you won't ever hear me criticizing people who are doing the filming, because I support what they're doing. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean that I think everyone else should not do it. And I wish gun owners would get that same attitude about liberty, because our rights are not dependent on what I think. Our rights aren't dependent on what you think. And truly, our rights aren't dependent on what some bureaucrat who just happened to get 50.00001% of the vote think. My rights come from my existence. The fact that I breathe, that I live, that I was born, that's where rights and liberty come from. Yeah, in this day and age is probably the biggest terrorist statement ever. When anyone says in this day and age, I literally just tune out at that point. When you say, especially when it's a cop or a government official, oh, in this day and age. I was watching James Freeman's recent video where he was up in Utah, and you know, this guy was talking about, the city manager was talking about the fact that James was in there filming, and they automatically jumped to the worst case scenario. So we have a minuscule number of Americans, itty bitty, teeny tiny number of Americans that are actively going out there and probably surveilling government officials that one day they're going to shoot up or bomb or whatever. And they're doing surveillance on government. Extremely, probably not even statistically numerical. And yet the government wants to treat everyone with a camera as if they're a threat. And yet, as James properly brought up, every year about 1,000 Americans are killed by cops, but we're supposed to trust every single one of them, that they're not trying to kill us. So the government, it's okay for the government to look at each and every one of you as a threat, but you're the problem when you look at government as the threat, and government truly is the threat. Let's see. All right, here's one. You attacked someone who did nothing to you, and more so their guest, which was below the belt. I won't discuss it here any further. No, let's discuss it here. Who did I attack? I mean, who did I attack? Let's discuss it. I've got thick skin, and if I was wrong, anybody that knows me knows that I'll admit I was wrong. So let's talk about it. And if I'm not wrong, I'll explain why I don't think I'm wrong. But if you're gonna say that I attacked somebody that didn't deserve it, I'd like to know who. And then I can explain why I believe that, and then you can tell me why I maybe didn't have all the facts. No, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought, well, my name is Chicken Hawk. That's the name of this channel, is Chicken Hawk, so I thought he was talking about me. Sorry. Is there a hawk in there? Okay. Sorry about that. I'm driving, so I'm not able to see everything. No worries. Problem getting 357 through because they don't like Stickland. So here's what we're gonna do. You're right. There's a lot of animosity against Stickland because he is such a, well, let's just say hard ass. That's not a bad thing, saying that you're a hard ass, but he's a hard ass about liberty. And I wish every politician was a hard ass about liberty. I'm a hard ass about liberty. Is it going to be difficult just because it's Stickland? Probably. And I guarantee you that the old school gun rights groups, I guess that's the best way to say it, or the traditional gun rights groups, are probably going to find another sponsor for that very reason, and then they're going to create a watered down bill. But I think, despite the fact that we've got Stickland behind the bill, I think that we've got a better chance this year, possibly. I'll tell you, I can't even put my thumb on it, because we've got a much more difficult landscape in the fact that we've got 14 fewer Republicans in the legislature, if you include the House. Sorry, someone tried to call me. But then again, there's so many states that are moving towards constitutional carry at the same time, and I don't think the argument is there anymore. There is no legitimate, rational argument against constitutional carry. So in that sense, I think we do have a chance, and I'm hoping that Republicans recognize that you can't legislate like you're always going to be in power. That's not how you get laws passed. When you're in power, then you've got to pass the stuff that's meaningful to you. And theoretically, at least when they talk through their pie holes, they say they support gun rights. So what they need to be doing is pushing gun rights legislation while they've still got the power. Because if the Democrats take over, your chances are zero. But it's much harder for a Democrat to repeal something that's already been passed. So we need to pass it. And I hope this election was a wake-up call to Republicans that they're not always going to be in power. There will come a time where Texas is going to flip. And we've got to be prepared for that. Would you describe the difference between a republic versus a democracy in regards to passing laws? Yes. And let me also, so I've got a minor in political science, so I studied political science in college. That doesn't make me smart. It just makes me educated on certain things. But, so I want to first address the fact, are we a democracy? Technically, yes. If you look at the definition of a democracy, we're a democracy. What we're not is we are a Republican form of government in a democracy. We are not a direct democracy. So that, in other words, the people don't vote on every law. We have representatives to do that. That's what a republic is. A republic is where you don't have the tyranny of the majority in a democracy. So I understand a lot of people get offended when someone says that we're a democracy, and I don't get offended because technically we're a democracy. Now, if you say we're a direct democracy, or where people should be voting on everything, no. The majority of the tyranny of the majority is why we are not. We are a republic. We choose representatives, and we have proportional representation to prevent, for example, if we had a popular vote, which is a direct democracy for president, then we would never, California and New York would be picking our presidents and selecting our presidents every single election. That's why, because you've got states like California and New York where liberals congregate, and with all the babies that they kill through abortion, it's amazing that their numbers even grow. You would think that killing off your own philosophy is a bad ethic, but anyway, the liberals don't have to worry about giving birth to more liberals. They just indoctrinate them in college. Anyway, I'm off topic. So a direct democracy is where people vote on laws. This is, I had there's a video on this channel where there was a man that came up and tried to tell me that I'm the government, I'm the people, you know, who is the government? The government is me. And thankfully, no, the government is full of representatives, and we elect people who hopefully protect our rights. Unfortunately, they don't do a very good job of it, or they're in such small numbers, the ones that do a good job, like Jonathan Stickland, that they're sort of outnumbered. All right, let me now that I'm stopped here, let me scroll up and see if I missed anything. Hey, CHUPL, don't worry about it. We're good now. Sorry, I misunderstood as well. What do you think about well-armed militias? I'm a pro-Second Amendment guy, and the first clause of the Second Amendment is a well-armed militia, which is a right. There are two rights in the Second Amendment: the right to form militias and the right to keep and bear arms, both of which work hand in hand. And if you look at the U.S. Code, who is the militia? It is every able-bodied, well, it says male, but I would say every able-bodied person is in the militia. So I definitely support a well-armed militia, and if you're capable of actually going and drilling, you should do that. Force and theft are both wrong, and legislating it doesn't make it suddenly good. Absolutely, I agree. The state is simply a monopoly on force and theft. I would agree to that to an extent. When the government gets way out of control, you look at what's going on in France. I actually applaud, even though I don't applaud sort of the fact that it's a bunch of leftists, but I applaud the fact that violence, because in Europe right now, you've got such socialist governments there that are basically forcing everything on the people. For those of you who don't know, you know this yellow vest movement, that's these yellow vest protests in Paris. So if you don't know the history of these yellow vests, the government actually mandates that every vehicle and every person in the vehicle, there has to be a yellow vest inside the vehicle for every person that's in that vehicle. And ostensibly, that's for safety purposes. All great laws are, you know, oh, we're all about safety. All great laws. Really, it's just about control. So in Paris, you're supposed to have every person in a vehicle has to have a yellow vest in case it breaks down and, you know, you got to get out and change a tire or something. It makes you more visible, blah, 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 blah. That's the excuse. So what? You know, and when you get pulled over, the police can say, let me see your yellow vest. And if you don't have it, you get ticketed, that kind of crap. But I like that finally the government has gone out of control, and it's not just about taxes, it's about immigration. The people over there are fed up. And the government thinks it's got a monopoly on force, but I'll tell you, the monopoly on force is actually with the people. The problem is we don't recognize that. The government has us so brainwashed that we're supposed to think that we can't be violent to force the government to do what it's supposed to do. And I don't believe in violence. I don't support or condone violence in any way except in self-defense. And I would argue that those people in Paris right now are just defending their livelihoods. They've been stolen from for so long. They've had their liberty stolen from them for so long. And they've tried to do it, I'm sure many of them have tried to do it through elections, and it's just not working. So when the government gets so tyrannical that you have no other choice, then the people need to exercise their monopoly on violence. Thankfully, I don't think America is anywhere close to that yet. But we're headed that direction, that's for sure. But I do not condone violence. I just want to make that clear. I don't support violence except in self-defense in any way whatsoever, whether it's at the individual level or the national level. And it's a whole nother discussion. You can say, oh, but you went to Iraq and you went to Afghanistan. Again, that's a whole nother discussion, and I'm not going to legitimize that in any way. What I will say is that when I engaged in violence, I did so in self-defense. Okay, I did that. How about anyone who reads chats while driving has their right to carry revoked? Come and take it. Did I hurt anybody? All right, no victim, no crime. Republicans lied to us about repealing Obamacare. They better not lie about getting open carry. Well, we have open carry, but you mean constitutional carry, I hope. But you're right. I think Republicans lie just as much as Democrats. They just lie about different things, and I'm a Republican. I'm a more liberty-minded Republican. All right, let's see. The people that were... The people that were in... Hey, Juan, I can't read. I don't know what you're trying to say there. The people that were... Anyway, I'm going to move on. Ask that question again in a different way. Yeah, you're right, Ryan. Conservatives managed to produce liberals by sending them to liberal colleges. But I would argue, if you prepare your students, your kids, before they go to college, because I went to college, and I'll tell you, I had some liberal professors, but I stood my ground. ATF states white paper correctly identifies assault weapons as politically contrived term. Yep. I'm just trying to find questions here before I... Yes, that yellow vest is crazy. I agree. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. If I were distracted, Luminate, so I don't look at my phone when there are cars around me. Just so you guys know my personal philosophy on that. I don't look at my phone while there are people around me. I stick to the road, and I feel like I can divert a little bit of attention when it's safe. So if I'm going around a corner, I won't divert attention. If there's people around me that my distraction might potentially affect, I don't look at my phone. But I've been driving and reading or texting or whatever my entire life, and I would say that as long as I don't hurt anybody, then that's perfectly fine. Let's see. All right, so that's it. I hope I answered a lot of y'all's questions. I'm home. Wow, that was a 45-minute trip. I guess that was weird. Thought it was gonna be a 20-minute trip. Guys, look, what you need to do is you need to contact your state representative. You need to contact your state senator about supporting constitutional carry this session. And you need to go to the Open Carry Texas YouTube channel and look at the video I made there. I'll give you some ideas about why we need to support constitutional carry and a few arguments about it. But our legislators need to understand that I don't care what people think. There was a blue wave in Texas. All right, it wasn't a big wave, it wasn't a tsunami, but there was a blue wave in Texas. We lost every single Republican in the appellate courts here in Texas. Just because they didn't win a majority in the House or the Senate, and they didn't win, you know, Beto didn't win, and we didn't lose the governorship, and we didn't lose the attorney general or the lieutenant governor or any of that stuff. Just because we didn't lose that doesn't mean that there wasn't a blue wave, because there was. We lost 13 seats in our state house, in our state legislature, excuse me. So when you go and talk to your representatives, you need to let them know that you guys aren't going to be in power forever. And if you don't give us constitutional carry, I think that's another reason why Republicans are staying home. We're frustrated. We're frustrated that we put people in office who say one thing and then they vote against our best interest and our liberty. And they're going to keep losing if they keep doing that, because at some point you have a choice. Do you vote for the guy that's going to lie to you and then be a liberal, or do you vote for the person that's going to tell you the truth and be a liberal? At least with the liberals, you know what you're getting. Whereas with the Republican, if you vote for someone that lies all the time, and people are going to get fed up with that, and they might not vote for the liberal, but they might start voting third party, which means Democrats are going to start gaining power. So it's important that Republicans understand that. No, we don't need to beg our masters. We need to force them. We need to I don't have any masters, so I don't have anybody to beg. No one is in control of me. But when it comes to creating law and getting the government off my bodies, we live in a republic, and so I expect my Republican, and I mean that little r Republican, not party Republican, I expect my Republican representatives to protect my liberty, and that's just that. All right, so thanks guys. This was probably boring as all hell. Okay, you're right. Yeah, my wife is my man. Okay, I'll give you that. I do subject myself to my wife, and I allow her to boss me around. That's it. I have one master, two masters, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and then my wife, who probably thinks she's the former. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Hey, take care, be safe, and be free. And let's do this next year. We are going to have a big pro-gun rally in January, so stay tuned to this channel. Stay tuned to Open Carry Texas for details on that. If you go to opencarrytexas.org, sign up for our email list. We do not spam. We do not beg for money all the time, so that you can be made aware of events coming up and when we've got hearings and what you can do to help us get constitutional carry this legislative session. If I don't talk to you on video before Christmas, please have a blessed and safe Christmas. Don't drink too much eggnog with alcohol in it. I like eggnog without alcohol. I don't mind gaining weight over Christmas. I think I'm starting to see some of that because of eggnog. But my wife is taking me to the gym tonight, so maybe I can get rid of some of it. But I am an unashamed drinker of non-alcoholic eggnog. I don't drink alcohol at all. But Be safe and be free, folks.